So one or two things happened like this. My brother came up and he was chainsawing. And he was very experienced. In any case, his chainsaw slipped and it cuts through his quadricep, through his patella actually. And so we had to get him in. And my son was out in a paddock cruising round and he heard something he thought was a bird calling out. And it repeated itself and he thought, that's funny, I'd better go over and have a look. And here was my brother lying there trying to attract attention. So he called out to me and there was a tractor there and front end loader. And so we scooped him up in that and took him away. And I splintered it up with a bit of Manica and rang up Jan Bills, Rotherham, and said, I've got to come in, he'll have to have something done. And so they got him admitted to Christchurch Hospital, but you had to use the facilities that were available. And it became quite clear that the networks were not really well established. Now, the reason I was interested and put up for the hospital board was because the Mary Hospital had been closed some years ago because they couldn't get staff. That was a key. They couldn't attract staff. When Dr. Meeklem, or Dr. Solo GP at Rotherham retired, they couldn't replace him. That was the job of the county council to sort that out. So the hospital informed the council they're going to sell the hospital because they'd kept it there and waiting to see if any use was made of it or needed and so on. It wasn't being used. Mrs. Bethel, who was a local chieftain, she was wonderful in the First World War. So I went along to the meeting with my neighbour and I thought, I'm not going to the meeting without having some information about what to do about it. It's useless to go along and say, isn't this awful? So Mrs. Bethel, people were a bit afraid of being associated too much with Mrs. Bethel because she was a bit of a, you didn't go again Mrs. Bethel if you had any sense. And she used to organise everything and everybody, so, but that era was finished. And she had quite a job finding somebody who would actually chair the meeting because she wanted to have one of the community who was well respected, and in the end she did get somebody who I'm quite sure rather reluctantly agreed to chair it. And so she didn't have any agenda or anything, but after a lot of nondescript opinion except dismay, I stood up and I said I'd prepared a paper. And I read out this paper, and she said, yeah, that's right. And somehow or other was decided that we should send a deputation to Wellington to protest. And she rang me up, or somebody rang me up who was working with her and supporting her, and said, would you go as a member of the deputation? And I said, no, I don't think I would. He said, why not? And I said, well, the council, which is the authority for the district, has decided to send a deputation up. And I think it might show lack of faith in the council. And they didn't see that at all. In the end, I rang up a council member for our district and I said, do you think it shows a lack of faith? And no, certainly not. You go along. So I rang up and said, all right, I'll go. So we went up. We went up at our own expense, and Mrs. Bethel shouted us lunch at the hotel in Wellington where we met. She wasn't too sure where we were supposed to meet. I think she was going to Parliament. And I rang up the Department of Health in the middle of the lunch and I said, well, where's the meeting? And we were told it was that. They were very sympathetic, but they didn't change their decision to sell.